Hi guys, so today's video is going to be my August TBR. You're gonna notice with a lot of the books that I'm wanting to pick up in August, most of them are very short, and I am a big fan of fantasy. Normally fantasy books are pretty long, but I'm purposefully picking some of the shorter books that I'm wanting to read this season because I do have some family coming into town, some siblings who are going to come over and visit my dad. If you're new, I am my dad's caretaker. He's currently in the hospital, but hopefully he'll be home soon, and then family members are going to come visit him and things like that. So I just know that I need books that when I do have time to read, I can try to binge really fast in that one sitting. There is one book on this list. It's kind of a if I have the time and energy book, and I'm actually going to start with that one and then I'll jump into the rest. But that particular one would be Under Heaven by Guy Gabriel Kay. I actually had this on a TBR previously, but the story of my life this year is, I think that things are settling with my dad now, and then they don't, and then things get crazy again. So, realistically, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this, but if I do have time, since all the other books that I'm wanting to pick up are so short, I really want to get to this one. I think it has potential to be a new favorite just based off of my tastes. My two favorite genres are fantasy and historical fiction, and from what I understand, Guy Gabriel Kay basically writes historical fiction, except for it's actually a make-believe land, but it's inspired by real places and times in our own history. So that already sounds incredibly appealing to me. I have heard that his writing style is very beautiful, but not kind of purple prose sort of a thing, and that also sounds really appealing to me because I tend to like more direct writing styles, but if you can fancy it up a little, I'm super on board. Plus, I love intrigue, and from what I understand, Guy Gabriel Kay's books, they're not really very fantastical, they're not super magical, and while I do love me a good magic system, I think when you have the absence of that, you have to rely heavily on characters and intrigue. So I'm hoping that's what I'm gonna get with this one. Next up would be Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. He is the author who also wrote the Nickel Boys as well as some other books. And this particular month in August is my husband's birthday. I have been wanting to pick this book up for a while, but this particular month feels perfect because I like to do this thing where when I love somebody, I like to pick up a book that they love for their birthday. And my husband does truly love this story, and he just thinks it's really powerful, and I have wanted to read it anyway. It just seems like perfect timing for that. If you don't know, this story kind of is historical fiction, but it treats the Underground Railroad as if it was an actual Underground Railroad, and it's very allegorical. From what I understand, you read it, and at first you're like, oh, well, these are things that happened back in the day, but then you realize that it's kind of symbolic of things going on now as well. It sounds incredibly powerful. I've heard amazing things, and apparently other people think it's pretty good because it won the Pulitzer. Because that particular book is so short, I'm also going to pick up Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is a book that my husband recently read and just was so incredibly moved by. He is kind of on he goes through phases in his reading tastes. I'm boring and basic. I'm like, I love fantasy, and then I always want to read fantasy, but I'm trying to branch out, and my husband is amazing at just bouncing between different genres and just kind of head first diving into it, and he has really been embracing a lot of literary type of works, and this particular one he found so powerful. It's kind of framed as Ta-Nehisi Coates writing a letter to his son about his experiences being African American in America. But from what he has researched, my husband, not Ta-Nehisi Coates, but this was not initially intended to be framed as a letter to his son. That was kind of something that they recommended he do to add this different feel to it, and apparently it worked really well. My husband, like I said, was so moved by this book. He just found it to be extremely powerful, and I really want to read it. Sticking now with the shorter books, the next one would be The Thief, which is part of the Queen's Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner. I've heard incredible things about this series. It's super short, really, really short. It's less than 300 pages, which is incredibly rare for a fantasy series. Well, the whole series isn't under 300 pages. The first book, this one, is under 300 pages. But I've just heard such good things about it, but because it is a slightly older series, a lot of times people don't seem to talk about it as much. It's not the new hot thing to pick up. But when people have read it, they always have good things to say about it. This next book isn't really as short, but it does sound like it's going to be really fun and entertaining. And so I think that the lack of density with this one is going to help me just kind of want to keep flipping the page, and that would be Wicked Fox. I have heard that this book is a good old time. And I don't mind if a book is longer, if it is a good old time. I think that something like Under Heaven is going to take a little bit more concentration. You got to really settle into it. And this one just sounds fun. I just think that this one is one where, you know, you got your drink, you got your popcorn, or some kind of fun snack. That's what this one, it just feels like that kind of a book where you just have a good time with it. It's the kind of thing you read when you've just had a tough day and you need something fun. That's what I think it's gonna be, unless I'm totally wrong. But we have this main character who has some powers, and she has to kind of feed off of people. And then she meets this boy, and she's like, I like this boy. I think she was originally gonna feed off of him, but then she's like, but I like him, so what do I do? And I've heard that the angst is fun. I just think it seems like something that would be a good fit, not only for summer, but in between some of the more emotional books that I'm hoping to pick up. Next up would be Bandits. At the beginning of the year, I was going to do this thing with my husband where we had a buddy read book that we would do vlogs, and he would get to hear my thoughts and his thoughts separately, and then we wouldn't talk about the book to one another until we'd both finished it, and then we would find out each other's thoughts in a video where we'd come together and do a chat, and then you all along, it'd be like you're in on a little inside secret because you know what each of us thinks, but we don't know what each other thinks. And that was the book, this one, Bandits, for this month that we were going to do that for. But with everything going on in my personal life, that's been kind of not really, we haven't been able to do that, obviously. Plus, even when I do try to vlog, I'm like, my life's kind of depressing right now. It doesn't feel appropriate to put what's going on just out to the world. It's too personal. So we haven't really been able to do that. However, I still do want to pick up this book. One of my husband's favorite authors is Elmore Leonard. He has read one book by them that he didn't really love, but then he has loved other things by this author. If you are still wanting to do your own buddy read for this, even without my husband and I doing these vlogs, the app Byzans, you can do buddy reads over there. I am working with them for this video, and it's really cool because you can set books as want to read, reading, and read, and then that way you don't have to worry about spoilers if you're wanting to read it and you want to participate in a buddy read, but maybe you can't keep up with the pace other people are setting. They have it where there's an area that's kind of an ongoing chat, and then there's an area where you set specific spoiler sections. So, okay, we're going to talk about from chapter 1 to chapter 5 right here, or maybe there's a particular chapter that you're like, I have to talk about this chapter, and you can do that over there, which I think just makes buddy reading so much easier because they have those two different sections, and then they have the where you categorize it based off of you want to read and so forth. Last book for my TBR would be A Song Below Water. This is a newer release, but I've heard incredible things, and it's one where I think that this is the perfect time of year to read this book because where I live, it's super hot, and this story follows sirens, and it's kind of our own world, but there are sirens that exist in it, and it's hot. It's hot where I live, and I just would love to be a mermaid or a siren right now so that I could, even right now, I always have to turn the air conditioning off while I'm filming, and it gets so hot. If there was a video I did about Henry Cavill and playing Sanderson characters, it was a really random fun video, but that video, I almost felt the need to insert a clip of me apologizing for how sweaty I was in that video. But all that to say, this just seems like great for that purpose, but also I have heard that this is an incredible story, and I heard that even though it's short, it packs a punch. That's it though for my August TBR. If you are interested in doing any buddy reads, I'll have Byzans linked down below, and I'll also have purchase links to all of the books I mentioned in the description bar. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.